Building your first ARCore app with Unity is what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm Josh, I'm also organizer here, and I'm lucky enough to also speak here tonight. So let's dive right in. I've got the short slot. I know Richard has the longest slot, so I don't want to take up any of his time. But I'm going to show you how to build an AR app in hopefully in 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. Let's see. Okay, cool. So if you don't know what ARCore is, it's an augmented reality library from Google, and it lets you put digital things into a physical scene. So that's, if you've seen anything about ARCore, you've probably seen this line in a lot of the examples. And this is quite cool, it's actually sensing the light. And when he switches the light off, the 3D object is reacting to that. So that's quite cool, and you can see he's resting on the plane. So it has plane detection, so it places these 3D objects in the correct place in your scene. So in your physical scene, it will place the objects correctly. And I was thinking about what I was going to show using this library. And one of the cool things that Google announced at Google I/O is cloud anchors. And this allows you to have a multiplayer experience. So if I have a 3D object on this table and I have two phones, I can see that 3D object from different angles, but the same object. And it anchors that in the cloud so that both phones can operate on that object. So I was thinking about that, but I wasn't really sure what would be a really cool example. This is one that they showed at Google I/O. So this was a noughts and crosses game that you could play. So the grid is obviously common to both users, and then they can draw their zeros and x's in the grid. That was cool, but also I didn't really want to rely on the network as well. It's for demos is usually not a great idea. So another one that I thought would be cool is Augmented Images. So Augmented Images is also something they announced at Google I/O, and this allows you to bring 2D surfaces to life. So it picks up an image, and then you can then replace that frame with whatever you want. So you can put any 3D object in there. You can play sounds. You can do whatever you like. So this is one of the examples as well. But again, I wasn't sure what to do. And then if this will play, so this is relying on internet. I saw this tweet, okay? And this tweet is using ARKit, and they're using it to detect the pictures in the newspaper and then play a video in the place of those pictures, and it brings the newspaper to life. It's like something out of Harry Potter or something like that. I thought that was really cool, but that was with ARKit. So I was like, surely we can do this with ARCore. So let's see if we can do that. So PJ, that's what I was presenting. I actually haven't told PJ what I was presenting tonight. So surprise. So let's get to the demo. See, I only have a small amount of time. We are going to make an augmented reality newspaper. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so first off, we're going to start from scratch. So, oh no, you can, not right now. I'll tell you when. Okay. Okay, you can see I've been practicing it a couple of times, so hopefully I get this right. Okay, my computer will work. All right, so I'm not going to call it GDG practice 4. Let's just call it GDG demo. Okay. I don't know how many of you have experience with Unity or have used it before? Yeah. Okay, well, this isn't too complicated. You think like making something like that is going to be really hard. It's not really. It's basically going to be two classes, not very big classes, one for loop. I don't know, not a lot of code. So let's get to it. Okay, so this is a sample scene. Let's call it GDG demo. Okay, so this is the scene where everything lies. I'm not going to go too much into how Unity works, but this is your editor. So this is your 3D view of the world. And then this is all your objects in the scene. And then these are all the assets that you can then pull into the scene, sit in this window here, but you'll see as we go along. Okay, so let me get to my notes just so that I don't miss any of the good steps, because there's quite a lot that can go wrong with this, even though it's quite simple. Okay, so first what we're going to do is we're going to import the ARCore Unity SDK. So you just download this off of GitHub. We're going to import that. Doesn't take too long. We'll just not import the example. Should go a bit quicker. Okay, so this is the library we're going to use to interact with the camera on the phone. And there are some examples in there. There's an example for just a normal AR scene where you can place little androids on the plane. There's another one with augmented image, which puts a frame around images. There's another one which does the cloud anchor stuff. And it makes like a little room that you can connect to do the cloud anchor. So you can check that out if you're bored. Okay, so it adds this ARCore folder and the Play Services Resolver. So that's what we need. And now what we need to do is actually just set up the environment so this can work. So we're going to add just the empty game object. So Unity has this concept of game objects. They're just like, in this case, it's just a placeholder just to set up our device. So that's the ARCore device. You can see, not too important if you can't really see what it says. And in this thing, we're going to add the stuff that's been imported. So we need a session. So that session needs a session config. So we're going to make a config quickly. Let's just actually make a folder and put it in there. So it's going to get messy. Okay, so if you go to create, once you've installed ARCore, this ARCore option will appear. And from there, you can then create a session config. That's pretty much it. Just enter, and you can set what kind of plane finding mode it uses and all this sort of stuff, but not really important. And what it needs here in this field is a database. So we're going to add a database now. So to create the experience, I bought the Sunday Times. Haven't bought a newspaper in really long, but I went and bought Sunday Times, and I cut the pictures out of the Sunday Times. Okay, so I have a folder of images somewhere. It should be on the desktop here, and we're going to drag that into our project. Okay, so these are the images that we obviously want to augment. So as soon as it picks up these images, something must happen. Okay, so you can see there's a picture of Mbappe there. There's England, Neymar on the floor crying. So what you do is you select all the images, and then you go again. There's only two options for ARCore. There's one to create the session config. The other one is to create the database. So then you create the database. There we go. Easy as that. Now we have a database, and I'm going to call it football. Still calculating. Hopefully it does that at some point. And inside the config, it needs this database. So I'm just going to drag that in there. Sorry. Not the config, the database. There we go. Okay, so now we've got that. So now what we need to do is we need to add, we have to actually add the config to this thing. So the config needs the database, this thing needs the config, a bit convoluted, but you only have to do this once and it's done. Okay, now the device is actually the camera. So it's whatever's holding the camera. So we can move this camera. So this is actually the camera we're seeing in this scene. We're going to move that into the device. And there's a few things you need to set in this, otherwise it doesn't work. So set that to solid color. This needs to be set to 0.5. These are all things that you need to know. Don't ask questions, not important. So yeah, that's basically your clipping planes and depth and all sorts of things, not really that important. Okay, so as long as it works, yeah, okay. So now to this, we're going to then add our track pose driver. So this is config for ARCore. So we're going to tell it it's using a color camera. We want to track rotation and position, and we need to update it before render. I'm not sure why it needs to be before render, but that's what the example said. Okay, so we then need to add the ARCore background renderer as well. So this just renders a transparent material for this for the camera. Also not too important. It just needs to be there for ARCore to work. Okay, so that's most of the boring config. What we need to do now, okay, so for those images, we need to show something. So you saw that picture I showed, the they were looking at a poster and then it sort of jumped out at you. So that's a visualizer that we then need to add when we see an image. So again, I'm just going to create an empty here. Actually, let's make it, this will be easier if I do it like this. I'm going to make it a plane, or in this case, a quad, which is like a plane. So this is it here. As you can see, it's standing upright, so I'm going to need to rotate it. So you'll see, there's the plane. So that's what we're going to render the video onto. So as soon as we see the picture, we're going to render the video onto that plane. Okay? So we've got it there. We've got a quad. We don't need a collider. So a collider is used in games and that. So like if you run into a wall or something, you actually hit the wall. You don't run straight through the wall. We don't need that because we're not dealing with that. Cool. And we're going to call this thing Augmented Image Visualizer. Okay. And on this visualizer, we're going to need to add a video player, obviously, because we want to play videos. So we add a video. We don't want it to play when it starts, and it's going to play on the material, so that's correct. So everything there is correct. And now some code. Okay, we're going to finally get to the code instead of just clicking things. And we're going to create a new script that's actually Augmented Image Visualizer. If I've spelled everything correctly, let's hope. Otherwise, we're stuck with that for the rest of the demo. Okay, let's just put them in a folder quickly. It's always good to practice good housekeeping. Okay, so okay, now I'm going to fire it up. So this is C#. So if you used Unity before, it's all coded in C#. So good ideas. Oh yeah, we've got JetBrains vouchers to give away. Oh, by the way, there's an example. Okay, so it's Riders, the C# IDE. I was using code before. It's really cool, but I think this is better because of the refactoring. It's got all the JetBrains refactoring capabilities. Okay, so we've created this class, and we've got a start and an update function. So start happens when we initialize, and update happens every frame. Obviously, I don't know why they have to put a comment under that. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to, I've got some macros, hopefully they work. There we go. That seems like it's working. Okay, so we need to add a video player. Okay, so we're going to find the video player attached to this object. So there's the video player. Can you see this? Let me make it presentation mode. That's better. Okay. Does it do code highlighting in presentation mode? Okay. Right, because that would be lame. Okay, so we're going to find the video player, and then this loop point reached is just when the video ends. So this is just the event that happens when it ends. So when it ends, I want to stop the video. I don't want it to just loop over and over. Otherwise, you're going to watch Neymar on the floor rolling around forever and ever and ever. Okay, so we're going to create the method. In here, we're just going to go, so the game object is this object, and we're going to just disable it. So, sorry, set active, and we're going to set it to false. Okay. Okay, so as soon as the video ends, we're going to disable this thing so you won't see it anymore. Otherwise, it's going to hang around in space until it loses the anchor or whatever, and then disappear. Okay, so what we need to do now is actually give it some images, video clips, an image and some video clips. So we need to, it's going to get an augmented image, and from that image, it's going to see which image is this, and then it's going to say, okay, it's an image with this ID, I'm going to play this video clip. So to do that, sorry, don't want to use the wrong files. We're just going to first, first we're going to just do some checks just to make sure the thing doesn't crash. Because if the image is null, obviously we're going to get null pointers and things like that, or the tracking state, or if it has stopped tracking the image, it's going to then blow up, so we don't want any explosions. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to then play the image. So if the video isn't playing, we're then going to assign a clip to the video player. So we look through our array. So we've made an array of video clips here. We're going to look through our array and play the correct one that's stored in our image database. So we're going to play that video. Quite easy. just a simple lookup like that. And then we're going to then actually transform the shape of this thing. So the transform just takes the shape of this image and shapes it. So obviously, if you can imagine, if I'm looking at a picture on the paper, it's going to need to change the dimensions of that thing to fit. So that's basically what that's doing every frame. Okay, so that's the one part. Okay, let's save that. Not too crazy, I hope. And then you'll see now in our image visualizer, sorry, it just does this whenever you update a script, it needs to actually compile it first. But it only has to do it once, hopefully. I may need a new computer, I'm not sure. True facts. I'm stuck just making mobile games for the rest of my life. Okay, so as you can see, this is the script that's attached to this object, and it's got a size. We've got 5 clips because I've cut out 5 images from the newspaper. So we're going to play 5 video clips. We enter, and now I need to go fetch those videos, which are somewhere as well on my computer. There we go. Just drag those in. Okay, so there's the videos. We're just going to drag those into the row. So there's England, another one. Drag that one in. Drag that one in. Okay, so now we're all good with the visualization. Just give it a good check because I did. Yes. Okay, everything looks good. Okay, so let's save so long, and then I'm going to drag this into a new folder. Call it Prefabs. Okay. Okay, so this thing is what we're going to show every time we see an image. So I can delete this out of the scene. You see it goes blue. So if it's a prefab, it becomes blue. So it means it's a component that you can reuse over and over. Okay, cool. So we've done that. Now, what we actually need to do is actually have something that controls the whole thing, because what's actually going to place the image, place these visualizers on the images, because we haven't written that part yet. So we're going to make a controller here to actually do that. Again, this is just a placeholder to hold the script. That's pretty much all it does. So we're going to make a script here, call it controller. Okay, look good. It's probably going to put it, go sit in this again. Whenever you make a script, there we go. Okay, so let's go edit the script. Okay, again, we've got a start and an update method. We're going to delete that. And if my things work, there we go. We're going to give it a visualizer. So we're going to give it that prefab we just made. So that's the thing. That's what the serialized field means. It means you can actually input this thing from Unity. So you'll see we just drag it into a slot, and then this object will be available to the controller. Okay. All right, so then B2, this is going to be the list of visualizers that we currently have. So we don't want to create new ones all the time if we already have it. So this will keep an instantiated list of them, and then we can refer back to them. Okay? And then, presentation mode, sorry. I forgot. Okay, and then we're going to add a list of images that we're tracking. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Like I said, I may need a new computer. Okay, there we go. Okay, so then we also need a list of images we're currently tracking. So we can track multiple images at the same time, and ARCore will hold onto those anchors for us. So we're going to just import that, and we've got a list of images. Now, every frame, we're now going to want to look for images and then assign visualizers to those images. So when we find an image, we're going to add something to it on top of it. Okay, so let's do that. So first, we're just going to do some checks again. If it's not tracking, then we obviously don't want to do anything. There's no point carrying on past that point. And then we want to then get hold of these things. They call them trackables. So the images, because it's calling native code, it's a bit weird, but you pass the images in here, and then it assigns them. So any of the images that are updated will be added to this list. Okay, so then we want to visualize these things. So we've got a list of currently tracked images, but now we actually want to put the visualizers on top of them. So let's do that. Okay, so we can, that looks good. Visualize this. Okay, so I said there was one for loop, I think. There's controller for loop. There's our one for loop that goes through all the images. And for each image, we're basically gonna just fetch our visualizer. So I thought I'd actually type something. So, so we're gonna get visualizers just to break it up a little bit. Visualizer for the image. So we're gonna first check if the image has a visualizer. If it doesn't have a visualizer, then we're gonna add one. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to add a visualizer to the image if it doesn't have one. So let's do that. See, this is the cool thing with this IDE. It's so easy to just move around and create methods as you go. Very cool if you do TDD and stuff like that. It works really well. Okay, so we're going to get our visualizer. So let's do that. So it's going to try and get the visualizer from our dictionary of visualizers. If it can get one, then we're going to return it. Otherwise, it's going to return null. So we're going to then check on that. Sorry. We're going to then, sorry, we're on 8. We're going to then check on those. So we're going to say, okay, is it tracking this image? If it's tracking and the visualizer is null, we're then going to add a visualizer on top of it. If it's not, if the tracking has stopped and the visualizer is not null, it means it has one, we're going to remove that visualizer. Makes sense, because we obviously don't, if it's lost tracking, we want to remove that augmented part of the app. Okay, so let's create a method. Again, that's fine, whatever. Almost done with the code. Okay, that's fine. Create a remove method. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so let's just add a visualizer. Okay, so to add a visualizer, this is where the anchors come in. Sorry, my nose is killing me here. Okay, so we go and create an anchor on this, we create an anchor on this image at the center pose. So that's the center of where this image is anchored. Well, center of the image is where we're going to create an anchor. And then we're going to instantiate a visualizer at that point. Okay, so that's where we're going to make our video. So as soon as we get this image, we're going to be like, okay, instantiate this video player on top of it. And then we're just going to assign the image to this visualizer so that we can then show the correct, you guess you could show, in this case, you could add the index. Probably would have been better code because you don't actually need the whole image, I don't think. But anyway, that will allow us to then fetch the correct video for the image. And then finally, last piece of code, we then want to destroy any visualizers that aren't being tracked anymore. So there you have it. Don't know if that was too complicated. Lost you, maybe a little bit. Okay, well, let's carry on and show it working. Okay, let's exit this. I think I'm under time, maybe, hopefully. Okay, let's go back to Unity now. Okay, so it will probably need to import these scripts again. Just compile them. Or it has already. Okay, that's also fine. Okay, so in our controller, we just then need to add this prefab that we created earlier. We just drag that in. And we should be good to go, hopefully. If I haven't missed any steps, let's have a look. Should be good. Okay, let's just check that this window is the correct scale. You can see. Okay, so I've got this connected up to my phone. I can hit the lights, Brian. Sorry, it's just easier for me to see this newspaper because it's so dark over here. You should still be able to see what's happening there, hopefully. I'll make it a bit bigger. Okay. If I can drag. Doesn't seem to want to go any bigger than that. Okay, so we just play, and it actually plays through my phone. So my phone's going to look at the newspaper, and it should show up in this window. So first we need to build the database. So let's build it. And okay, I should have said this before. The ARCore library is really cool, but it has some things that are a little bit flaky. So this is running on main thread. I'm not sure why it does that. There are a few issues open to fix these things, but yeah, you just do it again and it should work. Hold thumbs. My phone's off. That would also help. Okay, and this is another issue. So it kind of gets distorted, if you can see. So it's another thing. Just kill the instant preview app. It's an issue open on GitHub at the moment. So it's a bit. Yes, it's a Pixel 2. So you can do the similar thing, but you'd have to use ARKit then. So you can use ARCore as well on iOS, but then you have to use it in conjunction with ARKit. It's like some sort of interface on top of ARKit. Cool. So let's see this thing working. Hopefully it works. Let's hold thumbs. Otherwise, I've got 4 other practice projects where it does work. Okay, so there's our newspaper. Okay, and it should, if the lighting will help me, just see what it's saying. Seems good. Let's show why it's. Yeah, maybe we need light. Well, that was the anticlimax. Just hold on a second. Build prefab, I've done that. Have I missed anything here? Just check. Looks good. I've loaded up all my videos. The ARCore session is there. Main camera has this, has that. And this thing should have the, yeah, so it should be working. Let's try again. Although, just hold on a second, I did notice something earlier. It's because it seems to be struggling to build the database. So let's just have a look. See, this is what I was worried when we started. So when it builds the database, Brian, maybe just switch the lights off there again. Sorry, man. So you can see it's saying calculating there. So it generates a quality score for these images. So I'm not too sure why it didn't work. Let's actually delete this thing and try it again. Maybe it was a glitch. Like I said, it has its quirks. So let's create a database from it. Hopefully this time it actually works. Strange. Maybe because I'm plugged into a projector, who knows? Could be maybe because I'm recording the screen. Don't know. So what we're going to do is we'll go to one of the other projects, which is identical. The practice 4 worked. Whatever, save. So I'm not too sure why it's not generating the database there, but these ones already have generated databases. So worked earlier today. Maybe it's time dependent. Demo gods, of course. So you'll see in this one, which is the same, there's the database. You can see this one has quality scores for each image. So this one's 40 out of 100, that one's 80 out of 100, 40, 100 out of 100. Neymar got 0 out of 100. Okay, so let's try this again. So I think what was happening, everything was working, it's just the database couldn't pick up any images because it hadn't built the database properly. So let's give it a try. Okay, everything's working. Okay, Brian, you can hit the lights again this time. Sorry, man. All right, so let's try this again. Okay, there we go. Cool, so that's with one image. So I was actually looking through the shops to find which newspaper had the best images. People must have thought that was a bit weird. But here's another one. So this is the England game. Let's see. should get it, hopefully, if it wants to cooperate. There we go. Okay, and he has, so he has multiple images if we want to see. So the problem with ARCore, 40% of the image needs to be in the frame. So there's 40%. This one usually picks up pretty well. There's 2 going. And he has Neymar at the bottom. Let's see if we can see him. It's a bit, oh, there we go. Cool. So yeah, that's how you can make an augmented newspaper app in, I don't know how many minutes I took, maybe a bit longer than I was supposed to, but yeah, there we go. Thanks. Cool. Can take questions as well if you guys want anything. Yeah.
So is this now like able to, for instance, if you have to load up a database of some sort, like with like pulling from like YouTube or something like that right now, you don't have to automatically like load up the videos. Is that, are you guys able to do that yet? Or?
So you can do that. It depends. So the cool thing with Unity is you can install any asset you want. So there are YouTube players that you can add. So then you basically just give it a URL. So you, instead of having a database or a folder of videos, you can then just give it some URLs. You can have a text file and then just fetch URLs and play them. It just depends what asset you use. There's like Asset Store has a lot of different video players and things. I know there is a YouTube one. I don't know if it's going to connect, but there should be a YouTube one. Yeah, you can do that. Cool. Yeah.
So I'm not really from a development background. I'm not really creative, but
Mm.
to understand. So that was just a picture, like in the newspaper.
Yes.
But then how did they basically link it to a video of the actual game?
Okay, so here's my okay, I'll just walk you through the logic again. Okay, so here's some YouTube players you can get. You just use them as an asset. So like we were creating a prefab there. This is a prefab you just install into your project and then you can use it to play videos from YouTube, wherever. So we've got a list of images, right?
Yeah.
Here they are. So if you can see them. Here's all the lists. So I use the cool app. If you ever need to scan a document or something like that, there's a cool app called Adobe Scan. Works really well. So I just hold it and I thought it was a document and cut it out all nicely for me. I found that it did track the image a bit better when there was a bit of a border around these things. So I cut those images out. And then here are the corresponding videos, if it will open. So here's the corresponding video. So we've got the video, we've got the controller. The controller determines which images need to have this video placed on top. And then the actual thing that we put on top of the image, which is this thing that we created, it has the list of video clips here. So here's the video clips that we dragged into it. So it knows for this database that we created, this one that actually worked, that didn't want to generate just now, it knows if it gets ID 0, it must play that video. If it gets ID 1, it must play that video. So that's how it links up. But like you said, you could do it with a URL and then just play it off the web. Could also work. Cool. Another question?
So, with regards to the images on the page, is the way of being able to detect the amount of sunlight around the newspaper and the rotation of the images as well? Or do you have to load like multiple images of different lighting conditions and rotations?
So I'm not sure what descriptor they're using to actually detect the image, but lighting conditions do seem to affect it quite a lot. Unfortunately, that's in the library. It's very hard to really deal with that. So Google will obviously improve it over time. At the moment, it works pretty well. I just find that the conditions that I took the picture was pretty well lit. So maybe if I took the pictures in dimly lit conditions, it would work better, and then not so well in well lit conditions. So yeah, there is a problem. And the other question was, Was it just the rotation, or what was it? The
To do the rotation because I noticed that when you rotate your phone after it's already captured the image,
yes.
it rotates with the screen as well, so you can still see the if you do a frame on any paper. I wanted to ask if I was also able to detect, let's say my phone is horizontal,
Mm.
looking at the picture that was stored. Okay, I thought I was answering myself.
I can, if you think of it, you can talk to me afterwards. And the reason why I rotated the phone for Ronaldo is there's also another bug on GitHub. 40% of the image has to fill the frame for it to pick it up. And people are saying it doesn't really make sense. Like in this case, I just want to hover my phone over this. If there's 5 pictures in the frame and they match, it must play all 5. I don't want to have to go to, like, fill the frame. So yeah, cool. Yeah.
I don't know. I can only imagine it's using some sort of image classification model. If the image is not as clear, let's suppose it's slightly like a newspaper, correct?
Mm.
How does it still pick up?
I'm sure it would.
So
Um,
I'm trying to.
Well, let's actually, so let's put this official GDG pointer in the middle of this image and let's try. Let's give it one try. And then, Richard, I won't take up any more of your time. Let's give it a try and see. Okay, I don't know, it's quite dark, but anyway. Let's see.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah, it still picked it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, 100.
All right, cool. Anything else? Okay, one more quick. Yeah. I'm not actually sure. Yes. What reason? Yes, there's a lot of console issues about metal in the. Yeah. Okay, maybe I must update. Cool, thanks. Appreciate it. Cool.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Josh. Can you give that another round of applause?